sure can. Hey man, it's really nice to meet you. I was excited when your mom reached out because I love talking about making movies.
I know. I want to be a director when I grow up.
I mean, you already are a director, so.
Yeah. Okay, my first question is where did you, in the tower, you know how you animated it so you didn't have to find all this footage? I noticed that some of the footage was real life. Where did you get that footage? It was taken in the time.
Yeah, so what was incredible is the day of the tower shooting, 3 different newsmen, people with film cameras, came running to campus. And all those pieces of footage that you saw that are from that moment, those are 3 different people who were actually there on campus risking their lives to document what was happening and to kind of capture it. And then they went back to the news station. It's what's now the Fox channel here in town. I think it's KTBC Channel 7.
Yeah.
And they went back there and they had to take that footage was film. You know the difference between film and video?
It's filmed kind of frame by frame.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's a process where they literally had to develop the film, and then they edited out the stuff that they wanted, and they put it up on the news, that night. So it was a big, fast turnaround process. And then for the most part, that footage just sat around for many, many years. And at one point in the 1970s, which is still a long time ago, but after the shooting, somebody was going to throw away all that old film. And the newsman, the man in the film, the one who was driving the station wagon, the one who was talking on the radio, Neil Spells, he was the one who was kind of talking, and he had glasses on, and he was the one who saved that footage when they were going to throw it away. And this is before people shot everything digitally, and before we all had hard drives and computers in our houses. So it was kind of a big deal that he saved it. And anyway, where I got it from, and if you ever want to find old footage, there's an organization here in town. You can go to their website, and they're called the Texas Archive of the Moving Image. And what they do is they save pieces of film from the olden days, and they make them available to filmmakers to be able to make documentaries or to be able to make films. You can make some really cool stuff, and they have cool contests. I think you'd like that.
If I were to make a documentary about something, I could go there to get some footage?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my second question is, if you could go back and start your career over at age 10, how would you approach it? And I asked that, my dad gave me the question, and I think I get why he told me to ask you that, because now there's more more stuff that you could do. There's better technology that you could use. If you were 10 right now and starting a movie making career, how would you approach it?
Well, I think I do probably a version of what you're doing already. I started making little movies when I was 12. And so you've got a couple years already on me, but I had a little video camera in the late 1980s. And I would go around with my friends, and we made little action movies and, little kind of shoot 'em up karate movies, and, did stunts and jumped off of fences and did tricks in the camera to make it seem like a movie. And also did kind of weird little documentaries where we followed people around, mostly just asked them kind of annoying questions, and it was pretty fun. And so I was doing a version of what you're doing, but what I didn't have then that you have now is the ability to share those movies with people on YouTube. And so nobody ever saw the movies I made except, my parents and my friends, and, we didn't watch them more than once or twice. So if I was your age now, I think I would be doing what you were doing.
Posting them on YouTube?
Yeah, and, have you, I think what I'd want to do is, I'd want to find other people who are my age who do, other people who are my age who want to do what I want to do too. Because, as you know from making films, it takes a lot of people to pull it off. It's what they call collaboration. That's people
like multiple people working together.
That's exactly right, and that's what it is. From the smallest scale, for the the films you're working on. Your mom is helping you. You've got friends coming over. You're putting together a group, you're learning together, and throw 20 years from now, from where you are now, it'll be the same way when you're making big professional movies. The difference is, instead of maybe 5 or 6 friends helping you, you'll have 100, and everybody's got a job to do, everybody's got to work together. But so I think you're doing all the right things, and I think maybe the only other thing I could add, if I don't know what you're doing, I should ask you, is like, do you know other kids who are also making movies who are as excited about it as you are?
Like, I have a cousin, and me and her usually like plan out scripts, but then like we practice by doing plays and we memorize the lines. And then one day we were kind of like, we were playing a game and we're like, this would make a good movie. And then we had this whole idea, and it started becoming a TV. They started making this like TV show, and then it started kind of getting kind of blurry, and you could kind of not really tell what's happening. But I kind of learned some really cool things. And now that I have I have a tripod, and so I can keep the camera still. Like when I take a video and they're there and they like jump or something, I stop it in midair. I use editing where they fade, and then it kind of looks like they just jump and fade away. Like I used that, and we called the TV show like What in the World, and it was like ghosts, yet you couldn't see them. It was very fake, being like, oh no, I'm being pulled away, help me.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
We'd climb under the curtains, and then once we got all the way through, we'd pause the video, climb out, and the person who was there, they would kind of just move a bit aside and like that. So we didn't have like professional like tunnels that we built or something that you could sneak out and it would look like that it was a tunnel or magic something. But like, and then we kind of just did that, and now I have a tripod, I can just keep it still, and so like there's better equipment. And I forgot what you asked me.
I asked you, did you know a bunch of other kids? Do you know a bunch of other kids who also love making movies? And you mentioned your cousin.
Yeah. So my cousin, and then my sister doesn't really like it. But then, have you seen The Late Leap? Well, it's a movie I made with her. And then once she did that, because she does gymnastics and she like doing the gymnastics, then she kind of started. She said that she would make some movies with me more often. So now I kind of got my sister kind of liking movies. And one day a friend came over, and every time he comes over now, he's like, can we make a movie? Because like all I usually do is like I'll ask, can we make a movie? And then me and my friends will make a movie, and then every time we'll come over, we'll like work on the movie or just have fun making movies.
That's awesome. That's the spirit of it right there. I would think, finding those friends who are as excited about it as you are, and I think the difference is like there are people who will help you do what you want to do, and those people are great, and you need those people. But you also need to find the people who want to do it as much as you do, so that so that you can have somebody who you can get excited about ideas, and they're not just kind of playing what you want to do, but it's like you feed each other a little bit. And so maybe that's what I would start looking for, is like, who's the other great filmmaking, directing kids in town, or just, and they don't even have to be in town, maybe it's just like on YouTube and stuff.
Me and my cousin, we usually plan out these scripts, yet we never get to the movie because we kind of have trouble collaborating. Like, we both had these different ideas on this really great film. Like, in my head, my idea I thought was really great, but it was kind of like, his name was Cody Jackson, and he gets stuck in a dreamland, and he has to figure out a way out. What she was thinking was, it's exactly like his place, except for everything he dreamed of, and it's just like these people who he's dreamed of are there. And it's not really like if he's dreamed of riding a dragon in a rainbow-colored sky. That it's kind of just like a normal world, but it's like a dream. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And so you guys couldn't figure out which way was the way you both wanted to do it together.
Yeah, and so we ended up kind of just quitting it. So
that's
kind of
tough.
hard to do collaboration.
It really is. And I have to tell you, I just spent the last month kind of pitching my idea, like the way you were pitching your idea to your cousin. And if she doesn't say yes and want to do it as much as you do, it's a good thing you probably didn't try and do it, because a lot of times people say yes, but if they don't really want to do it, they don't really commit to it, and it doesn't end up as good as it can be. But like, that's what you're learning right now, is the very first and most important lesson of filmmaking, is that I have to warn you about this, Charlie. It's all rejection. You know that? It's all rejection. But if you can hear no, and inside of yourself know that the answer is still yes, then you can move forward. And that's what it's a tough business. You know, a lot of people want to get into this business. A lot of people have fun playing with. Everyone loves watching movies, and everyone loves talking about movies. But when it comes to making movies, what I always say is this: you've assigned yourself, when you've decided to make a movie, you've assigned yourself 1 million problems. And what you have to do is you have to cross off each problem one at a time. And by the time you've crossed off all your problems, when you get to the end, what you've got is a movie. But the first problem is getting other people to want to make the same movie you want to make.
Okay, while we're talking about like having trouble making movies,
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip a few questions, go to a question, and I'll go back to the questions that I didn't get. But
Good idea.
I had a question that was probably really good. It's actually like not the next question, but the question after that. Okay, so are you planning on having a documentary making career, or are you going to make more types of movie in the future?
Thank you for asking. My goal is to make all different kinds of movies. You know, I'm the type of person who I like to try new things, and I like to challenge myself. And one of the things I love about this career is that when you make a movie, you learn a lot about one thing. You know, and even if whether you're making an action movie and what you're trying to learn is like how to do cool stunts like in your backyard, and you really focus on that and you get them made, and then when that's done, I like to pivot to something completely different. And so, you know, when I was making that movie Tower, I was also making another documentary at the same time about Austin City Limits, the TV show, the music show.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that documentary, because like when my mom told me that, because I asked, do y'all know any directors? And she said, yeah, Keith Maitland. I'm like, who's Keith Maitland? Then she showed me some of your movies, and there's a bug. And then it seemed like, so it only really showed like ACL and Tower, like it didn't really show any of the other movies you made. It kind of just like, you're the top ones, because I'm guessing they're the top ones since I showed them. And then, so I saw those and I'm like, okay, so he made some documentaries, okay.
So my point is, when I was making Tower, you know, that film is a pretty heavy subject matter. It's you know, it's scary and it's painful, and people really, you know, it's a tragic circumstance, and people suffered a lot during that. And so when you're making something like that, you have to throw yourself into that world as much as possible. And so I was reading and talking to people and listening to stories, and it was tragic, and there was a lot of suffering, and it was sad. It was a very sad story. But then I got to turn over here to the ACL project, and that was just full of great music. And I got to interview I think like 52 musicians, including Willie Nelson and Beck and all these different people who I really admire. And that wasn't sad or tragic or traumatic at all. That was just, you know, talking to musicians about music. And that's one of my favorite things to do in the world. So that's why I say I want to make all different kinds of movies, because I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. That's why, you know, people who do this kind of thing can't go to get a job where you have to kind of do the same work week in, week out. You do this work because you're excited about taking on new challenges and going to a new location, meeting new people, finding new collaborators. And so I would like to make more documentaries, because I love making documentaries. I love real stories. But I also like making up stories completely from make-believe. And that's how I started, just like you. I'd love to make Cody Jackson and the Dreamscape, a movie just like that.
Like, maybe your next movie should be a fantasy movie.
Well, that's not a bad idea. I like the idea of that a lot. I'm working on a movie right now, it's actually a series, that is an animated series about wolves. And it takes the true story of a family of wolves in Yellowstone National Park, and it mixes their true story with a bunch of other stories from Shakespeare, and kind of like mixes them up and makes kind of a wild story about wolves.
Is it kind of like it teaches you a bit about wolves, and then it's also like the true story about the wolves at Yellowstone, and then it's also like, is it kind of like some wolves, like, didn't Shakespeare make like Romeo and Juliet?
He sure did.
Is it kind of like maybe if you tried to take that one, then like one of them would, and it kind of just like Romeo and Juliet?
There is a big part of this story with the wolves that is based on Romeo and Juliet, because it is about the love story between these two wolves from two different wolf packs that their parents don't want them to get together because the two wolf packs don't like each other. But of course they want to be with each other in just like Romeo and Juliet, and it brings upon a battle between the wolves, which is also what happens in Romeo and Juliet. Our story has a different ending.
Well, I've seen like the animated like Romeo and Juliet movie, and that's kind of where I heard about Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
And yeah, but okay, should we move on to the next question?
Let's do it.
Okay, I need to go back to 4. Okay, what would be a good improvement in equipment? I have a spotlight, iPhone, green screen. I have a tripod, and I also have a megaphone. Do you have like any was there any equipment that got you started on making movies that wasn't in that listed here?
Well, I mean, when I got started, it was a different world. So, I've never had a megaphone, but I kind of have a big mouth, so I don't really need one. The one thing you didn't mention at all is sound equipment. Do you have any microphones?
I mean, I do have a microphone, but mine kind of broke, so I would have to borrow my sister. She's not a big fan of making movies, and so she probably isn't just going to let me. And I don't have a boomstick, like a stick. And so I read this book about movie making, and it said, like, you should get, like, a microphone called, is there a microphone called a gunshot that you can attach to a boomstick, and that's kind of what, like, movie professional, like, directors would use in their movies.
Yep, I got 2 of them in that office right there.
Which one? You have, like, several.
Yeah, well, behind the blue door over there. Next time we hang out, I'll show you some of the gear.
I try to step down, and all these people are like...
Well, here's the thing about the microphone. I would say, what you've got is you've got lighting, you've got a camera, you've got a stabilizer, which is your tripod.
Yeah.
You've got an editing system.
I use iMovie.
Great. And so you've got all the basics. The one thing that you don't have, it sounds like, that professionals have is professional audio. And there are ways that you can kind of increase your audio game, just the way that you're recording.
On iMovie, I select sometimes I select the videos, and I turn up the sound on it, because it usually is like 100 is normal, and so I turn it up to like 500 max. And that's kind of like, if you saw, what movies did you see on my channel? Like, if you saw The Drunk Warrior, on that one I turned it all up, so like, even if your volume was down low, it might be a bit loud. That's because I turned all the clips like really high up.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I make my audio louder.
Yeah.
But I don't do it on all of the movies, because like, when I first got the tripod, I've actually only used the tripod in one movie, because Tales of War is a new movie I uploaded, and that was at my birthday party, which was actually like, so my birthday was like a week ago, and it was like the Saturday before my birthday, so it was not so long ago, and I got my tripod on the birthday, and so we had used it to film the movie, and basically it's like 3 kids are lost, and they find each other, and we filmed it at Gatesville Gravy Park, and so, then they get attacked by these like 3 other kids, who are like they're kind of, they have like these, well, we took these like fake weapons, and we pretend to, and we worked so hard, and we, on half of our time, to take like 5 minutes, and then on the big battle scene, which was like the rest of the movie, it ended up making the movie like 15 minutes or something. So like, the battle scene was kind of easy, because all we had to do was just like fake fight, and so, like, just fighting with swords. And so I didn't really have to say anything, unless we had to do like a fake dying part or something, or there was like a little quick line.
Okay. I'll tell you one thing from your filmmaking, a bit of gear or a step up you could have that maybe you don't have and it's something I would like to give to you. And that is a sound effects library. So do you ever use sound effects when you're editing?
Well, I can use sound effects and soundtracks, but I can't have access to any music because it would have to cost money because we can't figure out the sign into my music thing, so I can't use any music from like songs that you might listen to. So I have to go to like iMovie soundtracks, which is usually just beats, and there's not usually. I have not ever gone to one that actually has lyrics. It's usually just like a beat, and so it would be a really good upgrade if we could figure out the sign-in on music, and then I could have access to some songs.
Well, I'm not talking about songs though. I'm talking about what I mean by sound effects is this. Like when you and your friend are fake fighting, and you say you've got two swords.
Like two wooden swords.
Two wooden swords. What if, when you're editing, you could put in the sound that swords actually make? That's what I'm talking about. I have a library of sound effects, and literally it's just like, shink, chink, and it's just like a sound like that. And you edit in that thing, and every time the two sticks touch, you put that sound there. And there's different versions of it, and you can even pitch it up or pitch it down so it sounds like it's further away. It sounds like it's two different types of swords.
Hey, if you're ever gonna make like a cartoon or something, and you want like a comic, like sort of like one of those like comedy poing sounds, sometimes it can even work for a ball bouncing. You know those like door stoppers on the walls?
I love those door stoppers. They're so
If
fun.
you just do that, then and you record the sound, it kind of makes like a little like boing sound. That'd be perfect for like a cartoon.
I think that's right. Well, that's what I have. I have a library of all those different sounds. It's like hundreds of different noises. Yep. Would you be interested in having access to that to be able to edit with?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I just have to get you a little hard drive because it's just a bunch of little files. But that's something you can have.
Files.
But it sounds like you're off to a great start, my friend. You've got, is this the tripod we're talking about?
Yeah.
This is the one you just got for your birthday? That's very cool looking. And is that your iPhone?
Mhm.
And you shoot all your movies on that?
Yeah, it's an iPhone 10s. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay. And do you have you ever used any different lenses for it?
Well, I'm not really good with like camera equipment because I only have a phone. I don't really know what the lens are.
Okay. You
Like
hold
I
on.
do know like I do have a camera, and I think like a lens like on a camera that's kind of like a square with a circle that's where you film.
Yeah.
Like I do know there's like a button you can click and like the lens will close, or if you tried to take a video it'd just be black, and so you would need to open the lens to be able to take a video.
Yeah.
Like that's like my idea of a lens. I've never heard of like a phone lens.
You stay put. I'll be right back. All right. Here. Hold on a second. This is a little hand sanitizer.
It's like one of those like ball recorders.
Take a look at that.
Like are these both lenses?
Those are two different lenses, and they fit on your iPhone. And they change, so your phone has a lens in it. It's working right now. It's the little piece of glass that's on the back of the phone or on the front of
These
it.
are like big lenses.
So what they will do is they will change the way that your phone sees the world. So this is what I want you to imagine. A lens, like I said, the lens is like a piece of glass, right? Well, the front of your eye is also a lens. And that's why you hear when people wear contact lenses. You know what that is?
It's like, doesn't that make it like if you're colorblind or like if everything's blurry, it makes it like stable or colorblind?
Exactly, just like my glasses here. These are lenses, right?
Like, would that be like symptoms if you lost your lens or something on your eyes?
I'm not sure.
Because I feel like if the glasses are lens, then maybe the reason that you would lose them would be like your eye lens maybe on, so you don't really have any lens.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
But I will say this. I want you to think about a telescope. You've ever looked through a telescope?
yeah.
So a telescope, what does it do?
It kind of like, if you, like, I haven't looked through like one that's like far enough. Actually, yeah, I've looked through one that's far enough into space. We were like at this special event, and it was like a space event, and there was this big telescope, and everyone lined up. And it was like a different galaxy. But that's kind of the only time I've looked at one. I have seen a toy one at my grandparents. It's kind of all dusty, so you can't really see it that well then.
But when you look through a telescope and something's far away, it looks really close, right?
Yeah.
It's because of the lens. Well, what those lenses do, one of those lenses both of those lenses do the opposite. They take things that are close and make them look a little further away. So what they do is they allow you to get closer to things than you can with your camera.
Like, is that kind of like how they zoom? How you like zoom?
That's right. A zoom lens it's moving the lens and it's changing the distance between.
And it's like, so you know how like when it's like when you're facing it, and that camera, how it's kind of smaller on the one where it's facing, and you can see what you're filming instead of kind of like that, where the camera's like that, kind of like this, where the camera's like that. Like you can't zoom in like that. Is the lens like they're really small? Is it just too small to be able to zoom in?
Well, a zooming lens is different than what's this is, which is called a prime lens. So a prime lens doesn't change the distance. I mean, it changes it once you click it on. And what I want you to do is you'll see. We'll take a break here, and you'll put that lens on that camera, and you'll see what it looks like. And I can show you the difference between when the lens is on and when the lens is off. And then you can turn it around and try the other lens. And so that's two different looks. So you can shoot, and when you watch a TV show or a movie, you see like they change what's called your focal length. And your focal length is the distance between your eye and the subject, right? And so like right now, you and I,
Like
we
when
are about.
This one makes it really far away.
Yeah.
This one kind of makes it like a bit far away, just not as far away as this.
That's right. And sorry,
That
Fritz.
felt like it was all the way up there.
You get a little echo there. So that lens will allow you to kind of change the way that your stuff looks, and you can choose how you want to use it. But what it allows you to do is it allows you, like I said, you can get a little closer to things than you normally could with that camera, and I think it makes it look a little prettier. And it allows it to look more like what a good-looking movie or TV show looks like, and a little less like what an iPhone looks like.
Yeah. Like what I feel like they should do, like, I feel like they should, like, on, you know how there's like a portrait on photos?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think there should be like a portrait for videos? Because that would be such a good upgrade for like all those filmmakers that can only use phones and don't have all the like high tech video cameras.
I'll tell you what, it won't be too long before they have that. Like, it's amazing how fast these things are changing. And so, I mean, that portrait mode on the iPhone 11 is very beautiful. And during the pandemic here, people I know, professionals, started using the iPhone 11 as one of their main cameras because it was so easy to operate and so small. You can mail it to people who don't know how to use cameras but know how to use an iPhone.
Wait, so the iPhone 11 is like a mini camera that you can attach onto a phone?
No. The iPhone 11 is just like an upgraded version, but the camera inside the iPhone 11 is much nicer than the camera inside the previous
That's
iPhone.
what I meant, because an iPhone is not an attachment to an iPhone.
Right.
You can't just get an iPhone and attach it on and be like, okay, I got a new camera. Because that should be like two cameras and one would just be like black because it's up against like really close, so it's black.
That's true.
Like, I don't even know what I was going to say. So, can we move on to the next question?
Sure.
What made you want to be a director?
Well, that's a great question. For me, I think it started with just being real curious about. I loved watching TV shows and movies, like a lot of people do, and I used to watch this show about lawyers, and I thought I wanted to be a lawyer because when I watched the show, I always really liked it a lot, and I liked it more than I liked other shows. And I thought it meant that I wanted to be a lawyer, and I think it was a little before I was 12. I was probably just about your age. And so I spent about a year telling people I wanted to be a lawyer because I watched a show about lawyers, and after about a year of watching the show, I realized my favorite parts of the show weren't when they were being lawyers. My favorite parts of the show were when they were like arguing with each other, or having like an action scene, or they
like
were falling in
a lava
love.
breaking out or something.
Yeah, and then I realized like, oh, I just really like the stories of the show. I didn't really like that they were lawyers. That didn't really matter to me, but I really liked the stories.
That'd probably be hard telling people. So, I actually kind of want to be a director. Sorry, I changed my mind. I want to be a director.
That's right. And so that's what I realized. I really liked the stories of it, and that made me interested in how did the stories get made. And like you, me and my mom watched a lot of movies together, and then I would go and try and watch. Sometimes they make documentaries about the making of the movie. They call them making of, and you can go back and watch like the making of Star Wars, or the making of Indiana Jones, or the making of whatever. And
like kind of how I wanted to, kind of like how I told you earlier, how I wanted to make a movie of the making, like a documentary of the making of your documentary, The Tower.
yeah, exactly. Having a good time with it.
My mom just started saying, well, if you're running out of questions, just say like, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite color? I'm like,
Are you running out of questions?
No. So I just said, what's your favorite movie? Because like, is there any movies that you've seen that was like not yours that kind of made you just like, I kind of want to make a movie like that. Like, kind of want to make you want to make a movie like that or something.
Yeah.
Because I have plenty of movies.
Well, you go first.
Jones.
Indiana Jones?
Yeah, I love Indiana Jones.
Which one?
I've seen all four. Coming up with the fifth. My dad told me it was this year, and he had looked it up on people. We were trying to figure out how much Indiana Jones is. And I told one of my friends, and they said that it was actually that's 2 years. So it's somewhere around like maybe a year, if not this year. And this year's almost over, so it might just be like next year, the year after. But I do know they're making a film.
Well, I love Indiana Jones as much as you do. And you know who my favorite character is from Indiana Jones is Marion Ravenwood. Remember her?
Did she play like in the first one?
In the very first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Marion was the woman who...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. What's funny is like I also kind of like Ghostbusters. Is that one of those movies that I would want to like make a movie to? And then there was another actor from another movie that I knew, but I can't remember it. In the movie Scrooged, I want to make a movie like that. Have you seen Scrooge?
I love Scrooge. The actor who's in Scrooge and Ghostbusters you're talking about, is that Bill Murray?
Like the actor, the main guy in Scrooge played. Yeah, he's Bill Murray, and he played in Ghostbusters. And then, I don't know if you noticed, but Claire in Scrooge was played in Indiana Jones as like that actor.
That's right. Karen Allen is her
Yeah, I
name.
can't remember that. And there was one other actor that we knew. Right. Like there was an old lady in it who also played in Goonies.
Oh, yeah. Did you see? You must have seen Throw Mama from the Train. The old lady from Goonies? I'm trying to think what else she was in.
Like the one who almost cut off that guy's tongue. Like.
I remember. The Fratellis.
Like, did you see her in Scrooge?
Is she in Scrooge too?
Yeah, she's at one point like when the guy
Oh, you're
goes
right.
to-
She's one of the homeless people when they get frozen down below in the sewers.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
Um,
Good memory. Well, I love Indiana Jones.
We actually just watched that for the first time a couple of days ago. So.
It's pretty good. Scrooge is one of my favorites. I saw it in the movie theater the weekend it came out.
They're having a party over there.
Yeah, I have a good time. But I love watching movies to get inspired. I just watched a movie 2 nights ago that came out a little bit after Tower, and yeah, I was really excited about
No,
it.
this is crazy. The next question was literally, do you have any book or movie recommendations to help me start my career? That's kind of what we were just talking about.
That's what we were just talking about. Well, let's talk about that. So you've already seen Indiana Jones, and that's
Yes,
the
like I've
great
seen
place to start.
Indiana Jones, Scrooge, Christmas Vacation.
Have you seen Jaws?
Yes, I've only seen the first one.
Yeah, that's the only one you need to
Have you
see.
seen Meg?
No, I haven't seen that. Is
It's
that
like
good?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Have you seen Stand By Me?
I love Stand By Me.
I know.
I
Yeah,
just-
that's like the only rated R movie. I usually just watch PG-13 or PG,
Yeah.
and that's the only rated R movie I've seen.
That's great. We just watched it a month ago. Um, well, have you ever seen The Secret of Nim?
I don't think so. I also have seen all 10 Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
We got to, one day it was like at 4 and we were just chilling and my dad just had like this map of all the seats for like Star Wars, like the 10th one. I forget the name. I think it was like, I don't remember. But he's just like, look, there's 4 front row Joe ticket seats available. Should we go for them? And Tiny's like, wait, seriously? You mean it? And we got front row Joe, and there was the perfect amount, like 4 just for the 4 of us when we watched the last Star
What does that mean, front row Joe?
Front row Joe is like, it's kind of an expression for like the first row.
Gotcha.
I thought it said first row. When I said front row Joe, I'm saying.
Other movies and books that you might, what kind of books do you like? What books are you reading these days?
Like, you know Shelley Frost? I think she might have been a director because she said like, she said something that she was like a director in her book. But she writes these like movies, Why? I thought, it's laying there and it seems like it's under the table or up there.
Hey, it's cool. Chill out.
Yeah, it's just a squirrel. What's such a big deal about this?
Such a big deal. Hey, go lay down. It's okay, go lay down.
Good chill.
Have you ever read Encyclopedia Brown?
No. Although I usually read like space books and stuff, and like I read in the book Shelley Frost said that she like on birthdays sometimes she'll go and the birthday boy/girl will get to like choose who plays who and what the script is, and they make a movie. And then she puts it on a disc and sends it to them. She also says she worked at like a movie studio, but she writes these books and that's where I learned about the gunshot and the boomstick. She said like there's this whole chapter on equipment and a whole section on like sound. And I think she did mention a sound library.
Well, it's, if you're looking at filmmaking books, there's a book that I love called In the Blink of an Eye. It's by Walter Murch. It's about editing. And Walter Murch is the guy who edited The Godfather and Apocalypse Now. And he edited a bunch of like classic movies. And he basically talks about when is the right time to cut in a scene. And what it boils
like
down to...
switch to a different, like, maybe it's kind of just like, hey, as in like you would switch to another scene and you're just like, fast forward, no, we need to see this, calm down, give it a remote, I want to fast forward, kind of just like wanting to see the rest.
Well, the scene you just described, when you're like, fast forward, and there's a guy reaching and the other guy's got the remote control.
No, that wasn't a scene, it's just like what you want to do, like,
no, I know, but I'm making it a scene now, because I'm a filmmaker, and that's everything you're telling me is a movie in my head. Everything you describe, I'm picturing it. I'm imagining, am I there? Am I standing in the corner watching it, or am I participating in it? And so what you just said, I'm imagining 2 kids, and one of them wants to fast forward, and the other one's got the remote control, and they say, nah. And if I was going to shoot that scene, I would shoot that, the minimum, with 3 shots, but I would probably shoot it with 5. So the first shot I would shoot with is a 2-shot. So it's the 2 friends side by side. And one's got the remote control in his hand, the other one's reaching for the remote control, and he's saying fast forward, and the other one's saying, no, I've got it, right? So that's my 2-shot. Then I would reshoot the entire, and maybe the scene is, he's trying, and the other one's reaching for it, and he knocks it out of his hand, it falls on the ground, and it breaks, right? That's the scene. So I would shoot that with the 2-shot, or the master, you could also call it.
I would probably get a clip of him being like, and then the other guy knocking it, and then
That's
it would
right.
fall off camera. Then,
So how would you change those 2 shots though?
like
The 2
maybe
shots
I'd
to the
put
second.
like a little like mini trampoline under, and so it would bounce, and I'd stop the video. And then we get like a remote, kind of like broken, and just kind of barely screw it together. And then move it, drop it on the ground so it looks like it breaks. hide the other remote. So they're like, you just broke the remote.
Yeah. So you'd have your first your two shot of the two kids reaching, then you'd have your shot of the hands where he's just reaching with his hands, right?
Like,
and so you'd focus on just the hands, right?
I'd probably get a clip of the guy just kind of like switching it. Then I get a clip of the other one just like,
Yeah.
And
are you switching the angle? Are you switching it up to kind of come around?
What I would probably do is I've had the trampoline under, and I'd film it where he's just like, what? And he gets pushed. Then I'd cut it right before he gets pushed and add a clip from a different angle so I don't have to line it up perfectly,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
Because that's usually what I do if I want to line it up same angle and not have to move back. I'll like split the video and paste it in there.
Okay. Well, that's editing right there. Choosing between those shots is editing. Not fast forwarding and not worrying about, although pacing is part of it, but editing is choosing, do I stay in the two shot and play it all the way through, or do I cut into it to see the hands, cut back to it to see his eyes saying no, cut back to the shot, maybe go overhead and get a shot overhead of the dropping, then get a slow motion shot of the remote control falling. Then you've got your trick shot. I love the trampoline shot. That's an editing trick, right?
Like,
so you're cutting out of it at the right
down,
moment.
or like it would be up below the camera, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So all of those choices, that's all editing. Every single one of those choices is an edit decision. And the thing is, if you put two different editors with the same exact footage, you're going to get a different scene, because editing is all decision making and it's personal. And what Walter Murch says in his book is what he uses as a key to editing, you just did it, is when you blink your eye. And he feels like that is our brain's natural way of editing the world. Because when you think about it, when you watch a movie, even the scene we're just describing, you're switching angles all the time, right? And by putting together all these angles, you're giving your audience a full view of what happened. But when you think about your experience right now inside of Charlie, you only have one angle. And it's coming out of those two lenses and it's pointing at me. And you have one focal distance, right? You're not changing without moving. The only way you change is by standing up and moving and walking over here and looking at me from this way. Or getting closer, or getting further. But when we talk, you don't have to do those things to have a full experience here, do you? I'll give you a quick example. Right now, I want you to look at, just like focus on the top of my head, okay? And now, without moving your body, without moving your arms or your neck or whatever, I want you to focus on the tree behind me. And now, without moving your body or whatever, I want you to focus on the building behind the tree. And now, back to my thumb here.
Like everything is like blurry. Like an example of like how like a blink of an eye changes everything. Like kind of like if you're looking at an optical illusion, that's kind of like maybe like two artworks in one. Like if you're looking at optical illusion like two faces, and then if you look at it in another way, it's like just like a face or something. It's kind of like maybe you see the two people and you're like, what? There's nothing else. You blink and then you'll probably see the face. Like that might be a good example of like how.
Well, that's exactly, and what it's saying is like our brain is wired to be able to understand the world more than just like your camera right now. This whole time, your camera's just been shooting us in this wide two-shot. And this entire time, it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But this whole time, you've been sitting in the same spot, and you've changed a bunch. You've looked at me in close-up at just my face. You've looked at me in wide, where you take in the whole yard. And you don't have to move your head to do that. That's because our brains have the ability to edit within our head. And so when you're taking footage and you're editing with it, what Walter Murch says is you want to edit in such a smooth way that you're doing the same thing that people's brains do naturally. And when you do it right, they're not thinking about the editing, they're just experiencing the scene. That's something to consider, and when you get into editing, it's a book that I really enjoyed and kind of changed the way that I looked at editing, and it kind of changed the way that I took in. The thing is that when you learn editing really well, it changes the way you direct and the way you shoot. Because most of the time what happens is, for me anyway, when I was getting started, I would shoot stuff, and I'd feel pretty good about what I shot. And then I'd get into the edit, and when I'd look at it, I'd think, why didn't I get another angle? Or why didn't I get another take? Like, that doesn't look as good as I wish it did. And I don't have the ability to change it now, it's too late.
No, because you can edit it.
But even then, you can only edit with what you've got, what the filmmakers gave you to work with.
Like what you could do is you could like cut the video, like cut it at the part you want, at a different angle. You like cut the part you want to keep like that, and then cut the other part, then like cut it there. Leave those to the same. Maybe make another angle here. And by doing that, you could probably like just like zoom in at whoever's talking. Like let's say it was just like you see me here. Like let's say it was like right behind you, and they could see like the back of your head, kind of in the corner of it. Like okay, like maybe they would zoom in on me, and it would look like it's just a close up with me. Like if that's the angle, then you could just zoom in on me, and it would look like a close up with me.
That's right. And it would be my point of view. It would be like what Keith sees.
Like, or maybe someone could. Wait, that's kind of off topic. That's kind of like a different filmmaking. I was talking about first person. Like, first person, I've never actually got to do it because when I try to, what happens is like, because how to film it is like you get like a baseball cap, and then you get your phone and some tape, and then boom, and it's like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you do first person, and the only time I've ever really tried to do that was when I didn't, like on a camping trip, I didn't have any tape or any hat, so I just didn't get to do it, and so I kind of just had to do kind of like a one-handed first person, and so like that's like a filming technique I really want to try.
Yeah. Well, and that's all about, first person is all about point of view. Whose eyes are we in? And that's like, next time you watch a TV show, think about when you watch a scene, whose eyes am I watching this scene through? Because what the magic of film, usually we're watching, like right now, if you and I are talking and you look where that lens is, whose eyes are we watching through? We're not watching through anybody's eyes. That's what's called an omniscient viewpoint.
It's kind of like before I had a tripod, I would like put it up in a tree, start it, and edit out me running to my place.
Yeah.
Like, what you could do, that's kind of like if you don't have a tripod, you could just set it up there, and it'd kind of be like the tree's view.
That's
But
right.
when you have a tripod, it's kind of just like a certain point of area view.
Yeah, and so what that's called is the omniscient point of view, which means the all-seeing point of view. You can also call it third person. So if first person is seeing through your eyes of the world, like this, what you're talking about, that's first person, right? Second person is this.
You?
Well, second person would be like me
Like
filming you and you filming me. And that's called second person. In the same way, like when I talk about Charlie,
third person would be like behind.
third person would be somebody else who's not either of us first or second people. Some third person, and it doesn't even have to be a person. It could just be like the idea of a person.
Like,
and almost everything we've seen in life, every kid's book you see, every cartoon you see, most movies you see, almost every frame you see is from a third person omniscient point of view.
like if we were to make like a movie or something, or wait, no, that's not what I was gonna say. So like, there's some video games I play, like Roblox is always in third person, and Among Us is like the side, so I guess it's kind of like 2.5 or something. And then first person would be like Minecraft because it's your one hand, and then if you have something in your other hand, it's kind of like first person. But then in Minecraft, you can also change it to like second and third person. Although most people would play in first person because if you're trying to, because in Minecraft you place blocks. If you're like this and you're trying to place a block, you won't be able to see where you're placing it. And if it's behind you, then you won't be able to see where you'll be covered where you're placing it. So most people would play in first person.
Should we invite your executive producer to come and join us? I think we should. You want to grab that chair, Leah?
I was just going to let you know that you're at the hour mark. Is that called the timing person?
Okay, well, I have one more question.
Sure.
Were there any careers you had that helped you become a director?
Well, that's, you know what, the thing about directing is this. You have to be pretty good at writing to be a director. And you have to be pretty good at either drawing or taking pictures to be a director. And you have to be pretty good at listening to and understanding music to be a director. And and you have to be pretty good at interacting with other people in a way that makes them comfortable of sharing themselves with you. And you have to be pretty good at sharing yourself with them so that you create a vulnerable and open situation.
Like, remember when I told you about my birthday?
Yeah.
Like, what I did before I went there is I got some markers and I drew a picture, and I kind of, like, a little poster, and it kind of had, like, it's like, okay, so here's the plot, here's the characters, you know?
Yep. And you did that in preparation for the shoot.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like a combination of your storyboard and your shooting plan, your script a little bit, just kind of to give you. So anyway, you asked what other professional help you prepare, and my point is this. A director has to be pretty good at all these different things. But what you have to be really good at is putting all those things together. And that's the difference between a director and every other job on the film crew. The director is the only person who has to put all those things together.
And then the editor just takes all that footage that's put together and edits.
That's right. An editor's job is to help make decisions to align the story so that the audience gets something to react to. And
Like sound effects.
like sound effects, like
Or like music.
yeah,
Like maybe if they need to, like they realize, ooh, shoot, we got that hand in the background. Then maybe they'll just cut it out or zoom it in, because they realize, wait, we don't need all that space around it. We can just zoom in.
that's right. Reframe, change the composition. It's problem solving. You know, like I said to you before, when you decide to make a movie, you've decided to take on 1 million problems, and everybody on your crew is helping you, ideally, crossing those problems off. Some of those people are causing problems, and sometimes crossing that off is, you know, it's a different job. That's why it's good to have a producer. But what helped me as a director was, to be honest with you, every job I ever had. I was a bouncer on 6th Street. I was a snow cone stand employee. I worked at Target. I was a phone person who called your house and offered you something you didn't want at dinner time. I had a lot of jobs when I was younger, and every single one of them, I learned something that applies to directing, because directing is literally everything. Because all those facets, I mean, you know, you're already a director.
So like if you babysat or mowed people's lawn, you would learn something from that could help you be a director.
When I mowed people's lawns, I learned that people really care about details, and that you can do a pretty good job with 90% of the lawn, but if you mess up 10% of it, they get upset about it. And the thing is, like, that's true in filmmaking too, because 90% is not enough.
Because like people really care about details. So like maybe like let's say something was gonna happen. Like sometimes you don't have to include all the details. Like if something fell out of a pocket and then they needed to find it, like maybe what you could do is you don't add the detail till after they're like, oh no, and then you could change it to black and white, slow it down a bit, and make it kind of like a flashback.
It's a great idea. And you know, a thing like that, when you get into editing and you realize, like, oh, we forgot to get a shot about the thing falling out of the pocket, you can do what's called a pickup. Do you ever do pickups? Or reshoots? That's when you shoot one thing, and you can even do it like go out in your backyard and just get a close-up shot of you reaching into your pocket because we forgot to get that shot on the day. That's a big part of professional filmmaking, is like
And then maybe
fixing
like,
your problems.
maybe if you need to be like, oh no, I lost it, you could get like a sort of like a close-up being like, oh no, I lost it.
You good?
And so like let's say there was someone like next to you, so you don't have to get them next to you. And if you want to include like the like 0.5% of a detail, then you could like get someone to dress up in the same color shirt and go to the edge of the camera so they'll see like kind of like that. That might be a good detail for it. If you really want them to think.
You know what? That happened to us in Tower. We were shooting a reshoot. I don't know if you remember the scene towards the end of the movie when Claire, the pregnant woman, went to the hospital to visit her friend Rita. Or when Rita went to the hospital to visit Claire, the woman that she had helped. I don't know if you guys saw that part.
Was that animated?
It was.
I kind of remember that.
Yeah, she was in a hospital room. It was in color. And we filmed that late, and the two actresses, Claire and Rita, couldn't both be available on the same day. And so we shot Claire with one of my interns standing in for Rita. And then later we shot Rita in the reverse shot, the shot of just Rita by herself, kind of looking at her and nodding, and she was looking at nothing because Claire wasn't there. And we shot those months apart from each other. But then when we edited them together, you would never know that those happen in separate times.
So it's like it took a month just to film like a few second shot of like someone sitting in there and like talking, and the other person just being like that. Like you would think that took months, yet it did because they were both unavailable.
That's the thing. You've got to juggle all the availabilities of your cast, and then
It's like you can't just be like, okay, since you're an actor, you're gonna come in the movie. Because if they're an actor, they might be doing another movie, or because they'll be famous, so they might be busy or something. And so it's kind of hard getting like people that were like. Also, it'd probably be hard gathering all the people that actually experienced that to do voiceovers and hear their stories. You know.
the whole thing takes a lot of time. And you, I mean, you guys know, you organize the shoots that you're doing, and you've got a bunch of moving parts, and if any little thing goes wrong, you either have to change your mind and come up with a new plan, or you have to delay the shoot. And you know, sometimes you can change your mind and be flexible, a lot of times, especially on small things, but sometimes on big things, you have to put your foot down and you have to say, you know what, this isn't worth doing if we can't get the actor that I want, or the location that I want, or the sunny day that we need. So that's what, you know, but that's the biggest thing, is like, you're just constantly making decisions. And so you mentioned mowing lawns and babysitting. Are you getting into the lawn racket?
Well, I feel like no, but those are kind of the jobs that maybe like when you're 10 or 9, that those are like the kind of jobs that you would be available to. Like if you're 10, you probably won't be able to just be like a director in like a blink of an eye or a snap, you know?
Probably not. But you know what? There's no age where you can do that, except for like what you're already doing, which is
Like you
an
kind of
independent filmmaker.
You kind of have to just make movies, get good at it, and then you can, like, I do know that if you want to upload something to Netflix, you would have to ask the Netflix people. But I would feel like I would have to, like, I would make a perfect movie, and if I wanted to upload it to Netflix, I would try to get hold of, like, see if we could get them, and then I'd probably say, like, here's my movie. I was wondering if you could upload it, and then they might say, or I forgot what we were talking about.
Uploading movies to Netflix?
No, like, why?
Oh, what the question was, you said what job did you have that helped you become a director?
Wait, how does this have to do with jobs?
I'm not sure how we ended up
I
there.
know, what happened?
But-
Why is it that every question we go to a different topic?
Because we're having a good conversation.
There it is. Hey,
Oh.
it's been
I
over
don't
an
know.
hour, and I bet
Wait.
you and Keith both probably are going to eat dinner, so do you have any, I feel you have all these questions done. Did you have any final thing to say?
What was I gonna replace Tim with? Thank you for your time.
Well, my time has been well spent this last hour, and I have more time and other hours of other days.
I hope that video isn't like an hour long.
Well, I think it will be.
But you can edit it.
But let's do this before you go, because that little piece of plastic in front of you on the table there is your
This?
gift. If you want it, I hope you'll take it.
Yay!
It is a dual lens. I believe it will fit this camera. So maybe we can check it
Nice.
out. I'm gonna
Mask up.
mask up, and I'm gonna
The
hand
lens on.
sanitize. Pardon me here, and I'll. Is that okay, Lee?
Oh yes, please. This is amazing.